Yo, anybody else offended by the spelling in the video? Did that get anybody else? Just me? Cool. You want to know how to tick off an internet troll? Make fun of their spelling or their grammar. Works every time. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to church. My name is Jason. I'm so excited you're here today. Kicking off a brand new series called Unoffendable. And it's all about how we can live a life free from the prison of offense. But before we get started, I want to say hello to the Brandon campus. We love you guys. Would you welcome your church family, everybody? So glad you're here. Now, Brandon campus, just for you, I heard that last week Pastor Judd made fun of me in church, and he's not there today, so I need you to do me a favor. Before I talk about how to get over offense, let me tell you how I was offended and how you can help me. If you have Pastor Judd's cell phone number or his email address, which is judd@access.tv, write him this for me. Just say, "You will never believe what Jason said about you in church," and just send that. And don't respond to what he says. Don't respond to anything. Just be like, "You'll never believe it," and hit send. And then just do me a solid. Take care of your boy here, everybody. Love you. Thank you. Some years ago, I was working at another company, and they did a faith and fitness day. And the whole idea of Faith and Fitness Day was it was a day when they were bringing in someone from a gym, a local gym, to teach us how we can get fit. And then the idea was that he wanted to sign us up for his gym membership. And so I wasn't super excited about the event, but I was excited to get out of my office for an hour. And so we go, and I'm sitting in the chair, and this guy comes walking in, and he's built like a refrigerator. Like he's like this, you know, his muscles have muscles, his vein has little veins popping up out of them, no neck, just a tree trunk right here. And he just comes walking in, like I don't think his hands probably could touch. He was like this, you know, and he gets to the room and he goes, "Oh man, shoot, I forgot." And he points at me and he goes, "Can you do me a favor?" And he tosses me his car keys. He goes, "My car's in the parking lot. It's a blue car." And I go out to his car and he goes, "In the trunk, there's a box of books that I need because I need to give them out. So will you get them for me?" I said, "Sure, no problem." So he gives me the keys, and I go to his car, and this massive dude drives this tiny little Mazda Miata. He must have had to shoe spoon his butt up into that thing. And so I go open the trunk, and there's two sets of boxes. So I just grab one thinking it is what it is, and I pick it up, and I walk a long ways back to the meeting room. Now, the boxes weren't incredibly heavy, to be honest. It was probably like 30, maybe 40 pounds. And it wasn't that big of a deal, but I carried it all the way from where his car was back to the meeting. And as soon as I walked in, he looked at me and he goes, "Oh, I am so sorry. It was not those boxes. There was another set. Do you mind just running out and getting those? We'll wait for you. No big deal." And I was like, cool. And so I turn around, I walk my cute self back out to the little Miata, put these back in, grab the other boxes, and walk back in. And I'm going to be honest, at this point, I'm totally out of breath, but every guy in the room knows this. You never show weakness. And so I was like, "No, it's cool, no problem at all." And I walk in and I set it down, and the guy, he goes, "Jason, I want to just tell you something. The truth is, I didn't actually need those boxes. I wanted to make a point. How do you feel?" And I said, "I don't know. I'll take punching you in the throat for $500, Alex. Like, what? How do I feel? I don't feel happy, if that's what you're asking." He goes, "Here's what I wanted to prove to you." He goes, "Most Americans carry about that much weight extra on their body frame every single day. And notice how different you feel?" And I said, "Yeah, I feel angry right now. I don't feel lighter. I feel angry." He was trying to make a point. Now, all of us probably at one point in our life or another, we've gone through a diet, dropped a few pounds, we feel a little better, clothes fit a little nicer, everything just feels a little better. You check yourself out in the mirror for an extra second. When you walk by, you're like, "Dang, you look good." We've all had those moments, haven't we? But what about the extra weight that we sometimes carry in our souls? What about the times that we carry offense? Something someone said, something someone did, whether intentional or unintentional, and it weighs so unbelievably heavy on us. Well, we live in a culture that's just fueled by outrage, aren't we? In 2015, Slate.com, which is a famous internet website, they came out with this thing. They called it the Year of Outrage because in 2014, Americans were just fired up about all kinds of stuff. We just were. And so what they did was they tracked Twitter every day to see what the one thing that most Americans were outraged about. And then they kept this log. You can literally find it online, and it's interactive, and you can scroll through it, and you can find the thing that the people are most upset about based on the day. 365 days of outrage. And we get outraged about all kinds of stuff, don't we? We get outraged about what the president tweeted. We get outraged about who is selected to be in the Supreme Court. We get outraged by like should Starbucks use straws or not? Like, we pick dumb fights, don't we? We get outraged because of the big brawl between Cardi B and Nicki Minaj. Like, there's just always something that we get all up in arms about. And my wife told me that. I didn't even know that existed, to be honest, but she told me about that. And so we just get outraged about like the dumbest stuff. It's like we need to carry some sort of an offense, but the problem with offenses is they just weigh you down, that they burden you, and it's too much for you to carry. So my hope is this. In this series, my hope is that this word unoffendable, that is not really a word, will become a word. Like, my hope is that this word that is not really a word will become the kind of word that God uses to etch in your soul, that you can actually live a life somehow free from offense. Now, because we were going into the series this weekend, I kind of had my radar turned on. Like, what are the things in my life that just offend me? Like, what's the stuff in my life that just gets under my skin, it just ticks me off? What are those kinds of things? And so Friday night, we were going to have a family movie night. We were going to watch the Charlie Brown, the fall Charlie Brown classic series and have popcorn. And so we ordered pizza from Pizza Hut. And I remember thinking, like, Pizza Hut's fine. We order it. I get a text on my phone because it's 2018 and I need to know when my food's going to be there. And I get a text on my phone at 5:37 p.m. saying, your pizza has left. Be delivered soon. And I'm like, hello, talk dirty to me. And then, like, 10 or 15 minutes later, there's no ring at the doorbell. So I'm patient, no big deal. 20 minutes goes by, 30 minutes goes by. Now I'm starting to get angry. And so I just call Pizza Hut, but I'm calm. And so I call Pizza Hut and I'm like, hey, just checking on the status of my order. It said it left 30 minutes ago. Is everything cool? Just want to make sure your driver's fine. Like, I pretend like I'm concerned about that person. And so, anyways, they say, well, let me check with the driver. So the girl puts me on hold. A few seconds later, she comes back and she says, he should be there momentarily. I'm like, momentarily. Gosh, you're awesome, thanks, bye. Hang up. Momentarily happens, like lots of momentarilies happen. 15 minutes later, still not there. 20 minutes, 30 minutes later, I call back and I get a guy on the phone and I'm like, hey, I called like 30 minutes ago. And this is real time. Like, I'm looking at the time on my phone when I called. It's like 29 and a half minutes ago I called about the pizza that was supposed to be here an hour ago. Any update on that? And he goes, let me put you on hold real quick. And then he puts me on hold and he comes back 3 or 4 minutes later and he's like, yeah, I can't get a hold of them. I don't know what's going on. And I said, well, it was supposed to be here an hour ago. Any idea what's going on? And he said these words, and this is a direct quote. He goes, I don't know, man. Sometimes we be busy. Liz is here. She can, this is true. And I was like, we be busy? I said, you're a multi-billion-dollar corporation. We be busy? So you know who I was outraged at? You know who I was offended by? Pizza Hut, right? And then I go to bed Friday night thinking I can sleep in on Saturday. I've been waking up super early every morning because of school and getting to the gym. And so I was like, Saturday I can sleep in. Friday night into Saturday morning, 5 a.m., I hear this beep. It's like the sound of demons coming together and screaming in my ear because my smoke detector batteries decided to die at 5 a.m. So you know who else is offending me? Duracell. Then it goes on. Yesterday, I take my kids to lunch at the Brandon Mall. We go to Red Robin. Red Robin, yum. I'm excited about it, right? I get my burger. And they have bottomless fries, and they're steak fries. And I love steak fries. And they bring me my fries, and there's like 7 of them on the plate. And look, I'm a growing boy, and 7 fries, it's not going to get the job done for me. And so she brings it to me, and I say to the waitress, I was like, hey, the fries are bottomless, right? And she goes, yeah. I said, can I go ahead and put in another order of fries now? And she goes, really? So Red Robin on my list, right? Don't judge me like that. You don't know me. Then last night, Liz and I are going to a friend of her family's 70th birthday party. 70. So when you're 70, you can do anything you want. And so she decides to have a masquerade party where we have to wear masks. I was going to put a picture up, but it's even offensive to me. And so we're on our way to this party that I don't super want to go to anyways, and we're on I-4, and I hear a loud popping sound. And I think, oh, man, just what I need. I thought I punctured a tire or something. And then my car keeps driving fine, but I hear a rattling, and I have no idea what's going on. And then it kind of goes away. And then about 5 minutes later, I hear one of the loudest crashes and pops, and Liz and I literally screamed and jumped, and a piece of my car, a plastic piece, just goes flying off the front into the back. So you know who else offends me? Ford. Like, 4 things in the matter of 2 days. And this doesn't even include my kids or anything my neighbors did. These are just the highlights. You ever notice if you're looking for something to be offended by, there's always something to be offended by. And these are silly examples of things we get offended by, but the truth is you've been offended by some huge stuff. And if you get nothing else in this series, if you fall asleep and sleep through the rest of the message, or if you can't come back the next 3 weeks, I hope you get this. Here it is. Holding on to an offense never hurts your offender. It lets them keep hurting you. And you have to make this decision that I'm going to make the choice that no matter what happens to me, no matter what curveball life throws at me, I'm just going to live a life that is unoffendable. Like, I'm not going to let offense take hold of my heart. Now, you're probably better than this, but have you ever seen people who they live this beautiful life? Life is happy and good. They've got money in the bank, a family, they've got amazing, beautiful, wonderful kids. Life is just going really well for them, it seems, from the outside. And then something happens. Someone says something, someone does something, someone doesn't meet an expectation, and it ruins everything for them. You ever watch this happen? And it's something that happens to their soul. An offense sets in on their soul. And I don't know how to explain it, but even physiologically, it's like something happens to them. It's like physiologically it changes them, and they're always scowling. They always look angry. They always look mad, and they take it out on everyone around them. Their family catches the shrapnel. They walk away from relationships. They walk away from their families. We've seen people walk away from their dream jobs. This one breaks my heart. I've seen people get offended by other people in the church and literally walk away from the church and roll a grenade on the way out and devastate their relationships. And I just want to say, offense is a choice. And you get to make the decision, am I going to live a life that is characterized by all the wrong things that have been done to me? Or am I going to live a life somehow higher than that, free from offense? Now, Jesus in the book of Matthew, he's teaching, and at the end of this teaching, at the end of Matthew chapter 11, he says this. I love what he says. Matthew 11, come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, those of you who are carrying the weight of this world. He says, come to me, those of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you what? I'll give you rest. Then he says this, take my yoke upon you. A yoke was a device used to cause oxen to do work. It's like, put on this thing that's known for making you do work. And you will take my yoke upon you and you will learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. The reality about so many of us is that like when we're offended, we don't rest. We wake up in the middle of the night. We wake up in cold sweats. Like nothing about our soul is at rest. The same verse in the Message translation, this guy Eugene Peterson, listen to how he translates it. He says, come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life, because what offense does is it wrecks your life. And he says, you'll recover your life. He says, I'll show you how to take a real rest, not this superficial rest. I'll show you how to really rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. Listen to the beautiful poetry of that. Live a life characterized by the unforced, which means the natural rhythm of God's grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Like, I'm not going to weigh you down. I love how he ends. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. You'll learn to live freely and lightly. Now, if you were to categorize your life, would these two words categorize you? Free and light? What would they? Last night, I told you I went to a 70th birthday party of this lady. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't know her super well. She's more friends with Liz's side of the family, but she's just a sweetheart. She is as sweet as can be. She turned 70 yesterday, and so I heard some of her stories of the loss and the tragedy and the separation and the pain, all the stuff she's gone through. And this woman, she's free and light. She's characterized by joy. Do these words characterize your life? Or maybe do you find yourself today weighed down and burdened by the stress of this world, but more importantly, weighed down and burdened by the offense in your life? Now, let me just get real with you, okay? You are going to be offended. Great, Jason, I came to church to be encouraged. Be more positive, okay? I'm positive you're going to be offended. Like, that's what happens in this life. Things happen and people are mean, and sometimes it's intentional and sometimes it's not, but you are going to be offended in life. And so as we work through this series, let's come up with a common definition of offense. Let's define what offense is. Offense, something the Tampa Bay Bucks do not have. Oh, that's offense. That's offense. It's, or defense, right? They don't have either. Anyways, if you're offended by that, welcome to church, everybody. Here's the real definition. Offense. An anger or resentment brought about by perceived insult, indignity, or injustice. Leave this up here for me for just a second. What a definition. Offense, that weight that you carry, it's anger or resentment. The next couple of weeks, we're going to talk about anger and forgiveness. If you struggle with anger or forgiveness, you got to be here. If you don't, come and put it in your medicine cabinet because you need it. An anger or resentment brought about by a perceived insult. And I love the word perceived because so often someone doesn't even have to do anything. You ever been offended at something that didn't happen? You ever been offended at someone else's intentions and you don't even know what their intentions are? It's a perceived insult. An indignity when someone talks down to or about us, or an injustice when someone has wronged me. This is what offense is. And so many of us carry this through life. So many of us walk through this life so consumed by the things that have been done to us, that have been said about us. We're consumed by expectations that have gone unmet. This is cancer in marriages. Unmet expectations are cancer in marriage. And so often, for so many of us, we walk through this life so offended, so sunburned by everyone around us, and it literally changes our physical disposition. We don't walk light and free. We walk overcast, depressed, slunched over, our souls not at rest. Now, when you live a life characterized by offense, all these emotions happen. You need to know this. Emotions are indicators, but they're not always truth tellers. Emotions, they kind of tell a story, but it's not the whole story. And so what happens to us sometimes is we start to believe that our emotions are reality. You need to understand, you control your emotions. Now, you may flash emotion, you may have emotion happen to you, but at the end of the day, you ultimately make a choice about how you feel. You tell yourself how to feel, and you work your way into the feeling, not feel your way based on how life feels in the moment. So what happens to people that go through difficult moments of offense is if we're not careful, if we don't make the decision that I'm going to get over this offense and I'm going to live a life that is characterized by being unoffendable, what happens is we start to buy into this lie and then our emotions follow and those emotions become toxic. And so here's what they look like. We start having hurt feelings, embarrassment, anger, outrage, frustration, and bitterness. And do these words define you? Do you find yourself, when you look at these 6 words, and there certainly could be more, but when you look at these 6 words, do they possibly define you? Do these possibly define the status of your soul? Now, if I were to say to you, all of us could stand to lose a few pounds, you would understand that. But what would it look like if all of us made the decision to drop a few pounds from our soul, which means to be the kind of people who drop these emotions to become people who are characterized by being light and free, by being light and being free. Now, I wish Jesus had this beautiful solution. I wish Jesus would come along and say, if you do these 4 steps, you will be able to live a life that is unoffendable. You'll be able to live a life that is free, not weighed down, not burdened. But look what Jesus says in Luke chapter 17. Then he said to his disciples, it is impossible that no offenses should come. And you just want to be like, Jesus, come on, what are you doing? Like, life is going to happen. You just need to understand that this is the reality of life. Now, here's what it doesn't say. Jesus doesn't say that offenses are going to take hold of your heart. He just says offenses are going to come. What you do with the offenses as they come to you, ultimately, that's up to you. But Jesus says offenses are going to come. Now, if you were to read through the New Testament, the word offenses is found quite a few times. But the reality is there's 2 different Greek words that make up the word for offense. I would say it to you like this. The reason sometimes I like to pull out the Greek is because when you translate any word from one language to another, there's often different derivations of the word that cause us to have different understandings of it. Like I heard that in the Inuit tribe of people, the people that live in Alaska, the Eskimo people, there's 40 different words for the word ice. We would just say ice. It's all ice. To them, there's 40 different shades and colors and characteristics of what make up ice. In the same way, according to the New Testament, there's 2 different words in Greek, the original language of the New Testament. These 2 words are words that we would translate to offense, but they have completely different understandings. Jesus says Offenses are going to come. Here's the two different words. The first one is the word scandalon. This is the word in Greek that would kind of loosely translate. We'd get the root out of this for the word scandal. It means this. It's a trap or a bait used to lure animals. This would be a worm on a fishing line. This would be cheese on a mouse trap. This would be meat in a bear trap. This would be some sort of a trap and bait used to lure animals, to snare them and to get them. The other word is an interesting word. It's the word paraptama, and that literally means a side slip or a deviation. Now, these two words are so important, and here's the reason. These two words are used throughout, but the first one, this word scandalon, is the word Jesus uses in Luke 17:1. And here's what you need to know the difference of the two. The first one is intentional. You don't set a trap and be like, oops, accidentally caught an animal. That doesn't happen. You set a trap on purpose to catch an animal, don't you? But sometimes people just mess up. Sometimes people are going to offend you and they don't even know it. The funny thing is, you may spend your whole life looking for an apology from someone that doesn't even know that they did something to offend you. Well, we tend to live our lives in this way. And so there are people who hurt us intentionally. There's people that hurt us unintentionally. And the reality is we have to learn the difference in the two. So go back to Luke 17:1. Jesus says this. He said to the disciple, is it impossible that no offense, no scandalon, no intentional hurt should come? It's going to happen. So I ordered this yesterday. Maybe this has been creeping you out the whole message because it has been me. And so it's this Jack in the Box, and certainly you've seen this toy growing up, maybe not this gross version of it, but you've seen this toy before, and if you know how this toy works, the toy is all about scaring you. And there are just people in this life that their whole intention is to scare you. Now here's the funny thing about this toy. For whatever reason, this one, it doesn't work right. Like I got it yesterday, I ordered it on Amazon Prime, and it came, and it just doesn't work the way it should work. But the truth is, there are people in this world who their whole intention in life is to just turn your crank to cause a clown in you to rise up. They want to mess with you. They want to do things to get under your skin. Do you know anyone like that? The life Jesus invites us to is interesting and it's different. Now, I'm going to tell you in advance, this hasn't been working. It's probably going to work now. But Jesus invites us to a different kind of life. Anybody else like morbidly creeped out right now? Yeah, you're not holding it. Cool. Told you it doesn't work. The truth is you can only see his eyes, which is even creepier. But here's the funny thing. I ordered this with this whole illustration in mind. The truth is it actually makes a better illustration because this is how Jesus invites us to live. You're going to have scandalon. You're going to have people in this life that exist to turn the crank of your life, to mess with you, to try to hurt you, to get under your skin. And Jesus invites all of us to somehow live above that. That when the people in life, when they're messing with you, when they're doing things to assault you, hurt you, offend you, it doesn't really get a rise out of you at all. Why? Because you've made the decision to live a life somehow above, somehow free from all the offenses. In the book of Proverbs, Solomon, the wisest man to ever live, this is what he said about offense and how we can start to get over it. He says, a person's wisdom yields patience. So wisdom leads to patience. It is to one's glory to overlook an offense. What beautiful poetic language. It is to one's glory to overlook an offense. Now, I love the word overlook because it makes this declaration that when an offense happens, it gives you a choice of where your focus is. You say, what does that mean? Well, when someone hurts you, you have the option. You can stand and look at the offense and you can look at what is said. Almost like if you've ever gotten a cut in your mouth, doesn't your tongue always go to the cut? You can make the decision that I'm going to keep looking at the place where I feel wounded, or he uses the word overlook, which means to make the decision that I'm pointing my focus where? Upwards. Over the offense, over the place that's actually hurt and destroyed my heart. So my question to you is, when you're offended and when you're hurt, and maybe you dragged in some unbelievable hurt and some unbelievable pain today from something someone did or said, whether intentional or unintentional, I want to ask you the question, where's your focus? But what are you focused on? You see, even if you think about our language, when we talk about words like offense, what are the words that we use as verbs in relationship to it? I took offense. I held on to something someone said to me. All the words are these words that are about me. It's like I have the choice as to where my focus is in the moment. Now, if you can dial back somehow with me to like 6th grade English class, do you remember diagramming sentences? I don't know if you like that. I actually kind of liked that. I enjoy writing and the structure of sentences and how words fit together. And if you can remember, in certain sentences, there are words that are left out, but when you diagram the sentence, the word isn't there, but you have to put it in, you have to put it in parentheses, kind of like an understood you. Like, for example, if you were writing a sentence, and a father says to a son, wash the car. In the sentence, wash the car, what is the subject of the sentence? It's you. It's an understood you. You wash the car. That's the subject of the sentence. In a moment, I want to read you a series of verses, and I want you to pay attention to the understood subject of the verse. This is Jesus talking, Luke, the book of Luke, and I want you to pay attention. In your notes, it's not there, but on the screen, I emphasized and highlighted the word that matters most. So Jesus comes along, and he says, so you watch yourselves. You is the understood subject of the sentence. You watch yourself. Jesus essentially comes along and he says, you better check yourself for you wreck yourself. Pay attention to you. This is Jesus. And he says, if your brother or sister sins against you, if they offend you, if they hurt you, if they wrong you, if your brother or sister sins against you, you rebuke them, which means you go to them in love and kindness and you deal with the situation. You don't get on social media and vent about it. You don't talk trash behind their back. You don't gossip behind their back. You go to them and you deal with the situation. Who's the onus on? This guy. It's on you. And then if they repent, if they apologize for what they did, you forgive them. And we think it's all about them. It's all about them. But Jesus is like, if someone hurts you, you rebuke them. And if they repent, then you forgive them. Then he goes on. He says, even if they sin against you 7 times in a day, and 7 times come back to you saying, I repent, you, there it is again, you must forgive them. Now, pause here for just a second. This is so hard for me. Because when someone offends me, I want justice, and I want to fight for what's right, and I want to stand up, and I want my voice to be heard, and I want everyone to know that I was wrong, and I want justice to be served, and I want this all to be made right. And Jesus comes along, and he says, when someone hurts you, you have the decision to make. Where's my focus going to be, and what is my responsibility? These are the questions that you have to ask when you're offended, and what you begin to understand is that in all of this, what you have is you have a choice. And then verse 5 is fascinating because this is real, because the Bible's so real. It says, the apostle said to the Lord, you want us to do that? You want us to forgive people? You want us to let people off the hook that when they hurt us? You want us to overlook their sins and move past it? You want us to do that? Fine. Increase our faith. This is the kind of phrase that we use when we say, God, I want to be closer to you, so increase my faith. The disciples are like, yo, if you want me to somehow get past the hurt in my heart, you're going to have to do something inside of me. You're going to have to increase my faith. Well, why? Why does this matter? Because I really believe it takes a lot of faith in God in order to let go of the hurts of other people. You say, what does that look like? Well, if you have your message notes, here's what it looks like. We want to take offense into our own hands. Here's what faith does. Faith puts offense in God's hands. What faith says is, God, I trust you. I trust that you'll carry me. I trust that you'll get me through this. I trust that you'll heal my broken heart. So no matter what anyone else does to me, you have the choice to make. Will I be a person characterized, marred, scarred, hurt, betrayed by my past and what people have said and done to me? Or will I walk in forgiveness? Will I fix my focus above the waves, above the storm that's happening around me? And will I be the kind of person who says, no matter what anyone does to me, that was their choice, but what that choice does is it gives me a choice, and my choice is to live a life that is unoffendable. You say, well, how do I forgive? Like, Burns, you don't know what people have done to me. You don't know what people have said about me. You don't know how people have accused me. You don't know the lies that have been told about me. Can I tell you, first of all, I feel like this sometimes. I hurt so bad sometimes. Sometimes I'll find myself going into a social media hole and I don't know why I do this. It's like abuse. I go back and I look at all the people's Facebook pages of the people who have hurt me in their life. And I don't want to admit this, but it's like I kind of secretly hope things aren't going well for them. You know what? Like, you're looking at me like you're holier than me. You do this junk too? Like, we're all jacked up people. How do I forgive people that have hurt me? Well, can I offer you this thought? you can't even possibly begin to forgive someone more than you've been forgiven. You say, what does that even mean? Look what Paul says in the book of Ephesians chapter 4. Be kind and compassionate to one another. Easy when people are nice. Really hard when people have messed up my life. He says, forgiving each other just as in Christ God forgave you. How much did God forgive you? He forgave everything you've ever done. All the wrong, all the sin, all the shame, all the condemnation. He forgave all of it for you. And if he's forgiven it in you, it is your responsibility to learn to forgive other people. You want to live a life that makes a difference in the world? Learn to live a life that is unoffendable. You say, why? Because you can't love properly with a heart that is fully guarded. You want to change the world? Learn to live free and clear. Learn to live free and light. Learn to live wide open with your heart, as open as you know how to be. Can I tell you how this makes sense in my life and a decision I had to make years ago? I love our church, and we've been growing like crazy. There's about 2,000 people that call our church their home church now, which is just awesome to me. I just love how God is blessing our church. And in spite of how much we've grown, in the city of Lakeland and in Brandon, there are more people that used to attend our church that no longer attend our church than currently attend our church. So everywhere I go, in Lakeland, in Brandon, everywhere I go, I run into people, and it's awkward. Sometimes they won't even look at me. They see me, and they do that thing where they just pretend that I don't know what they're pretending. I saw them. I don't know what their deal is. And there is this part of me, like the real part of me, if I can just vent for a second, there's this part of me that, like, it hurts every time I see them. Some time ago, I made this decision that I'm not allowing the actions of someone else to dictate the condition of my heart. Like, I'm not going to let what someone else said or did about me to hurt me. So can I tell you what I do with my body when I see someone that's left and hurt me? I made this decision a couple years ago. When I see someone, even when the inside of me feels like this, the outside of me goes like this. And I throw my arms out and I offer a hug. So good to see you. How are you? What's happening in your world? How's your family? How's your kids? I cannot believe how big your kids are. And sometimes everything inside of me is dying a death of 1,000 paper cuts, but outside I'm making this decision. Why? Because no one controls my heart. We tend to think, well, my emotions feel this way. Your emotions are indicators, but they can also be liars. It is so important that you understand that you have the choice when it comes to offense. I can choose to live a life characterized and marred by offense, or I can make the decision to live light and free. I don't know if you've ever been a part of a group of people that takes a whole month of the year and they dedicate it to something. Sometimes guys call November No Shave November, so they grow out all their facial hair for a month. It's kind of disgusting, to be honest. Like, shave a little bit, whatever. Anyways, in CrossFit, they call October Squattober, which makes you just kind of hate every part of your life. Like, every month has something that someone calls it. I want to challenge you to join me for just the month of November. I've got like 23, 24 more days in this month. For the rest of the month, let's call it Unoffendable October. For the rest of the month, let's call it Unoffendable October. Let's make the decision that no one has control over your soul. No one dictates how your heart feels. So maybe you've lived your life as a prisoner to offense. Today's the day that you get to make the decision that I'm going to live light and free, because no one gets to control what happens inside of me. I'm going to ask you all across this room, would you bow your head and close your eyes? And I want to take a moment. I'm going to ask you to examine your heart. Is your heart controlled by anger and bitterness and resentment? Do you live light and free, or do you live burdened and weighed down? If today you feel you want to be free, this is for you. You make the choice. God, we come to you today, some of us hearts so overwhelmed, and we just want to live light and free. God, give us the courage to overlook, to make the decision to retrain our focus, not on our wounds, not on our scars, and not on our pain, but on your promise. God, may we fix our eyes, may we fix our gaze on you. God, may we make the decision to begin to forgive those who have hurt us. And may we realize that when we forgive those who hurt us, we set someone free. May we discover that who we've set free is ourselves. So God, may we no longer be in captivity. May our hearts no longer be enslaved by offense, but may we be the kind of people who make the choice to live light and free.